how do you bounce back from a tech startup that didn't make it? There's so many success stories of startups that it's been said the media doesn't seem to focus on lessons learned from those businesses. Either didn't get off the ground, or if they didn't last long. A young founder still in college in Toronto tweeted the following thread that was widely read and became pretty popular. Let's take a look at that tweet now. It saddens me to announce that Ogma, the startup I've been working on since September 2020, will be shutting down. It was a hard decision, but ultimately it was the right call to make. There were three main reasons why Ogma failed, which is what I'll go over in this thread. A lot of people on Twitter appreciated the honesty in the thread and thanked the founder for the nuggets of wisdom shared. So we're going to talk about those nuggets of wisdom right now. Joining us from Toronto, co-founders of Ogma, Seena, Makari, and Jack Stephenson. Good morning to you both. I think it's still morning in Toronto. Seena, let me start with you. So Ogma, obviously, it's no longer an existing company, but can you tell us what brought you two together, and I guess how you came up with the idea to start the company?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, thank you so much for having Jack and I on. We really appreciate it. So I started Ogma in September 2020, and what I personally found that was really, really interesting was during the COVID-19 pandemic, I figured I could start a business on the side. And from that point on, perhaps make some income while I'm at home. And so I decided to essentially create a tutoring platform. And this was way before I knew anything about technology or, venture capital or startups or anything like that. And about 8 months after I started, I made my first $16, which actually also became a viral tweet. And so Jack actually found out about it and called me. And he and I have been very good friends since the 10th grade. And he asked to invest in the company. And I said that he could invest so long as he worked on this with me, because clearly he was passionate and he had, a similar vision to myself. And so I figured that him and I would make a great team. And I was actually quite correct, because I loved working with him, and he's just been a great co-founder. So it was a really great journey with him.
All right, great stuff. Jack, can you talk to us about what you've learned about the downsides of not having enough technical knowledge when founding a tech company?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's two issues that occur. One just being when you are looking to try to raise money, a lot of the investors are trying to back people who are able to build their own company. So you don't have to hire that, outside knowledge for that. And the other thing too is that at some point while you're building your company, you're going to need to bring on someone who has those skills and expertise to develop and design your product or service. And if you're not familiar with how to actually develop that, what you're going to run into is you're going to be susceptible to accepting every decision and every thought that they have when it comes to building your product. And eventually that'll lead to your startup going downhill.
Thanks for that, Jack. Seena, let me come back to you. I want to read a quote from you on Twitter where you said, trying to build a tech startup without knowing how to code is like trying to build a house on a slanted land. The foundation is weak and the structure will eventually collapse. Why do tech founders need to know how to code? Is it like a prerequisite in your view?
I wouldn't say that it's a very strict prerequisite. There are definitely founders who have found success in startups by, finding a technical co-founder, who can kind of bring their vision to life. Unfortunately, though, the vast majority of us aren't as fortunate to have those kinds of connections, and to find individuals who, are interested in starting a startup. And so from our experience, we found that it's actually great if you can create the product by yourself, because if you find that your customers want you to iterate on a product or change something or add a feature, you can do so on the same day. But if you don't have that coding experience, it can take you months to do so. And that ultimately is going to slow down your progress, and your customers could just get bored. And so it might just be better to be able to do it yourself and meet their demands as soon as possible.
Great stuff. I want to remind our viewers, both of these gentlemen are still in college. They are still in university with extensive knowledge here of the ins and outs of startups. Jack, I have a quote from you where you say, if you can't get hired by the kind of company that you're starting, you probably won't know enough to succeed. It sounds pretty straightforward, but what about building a team around you that can do the things that the founder can't? Doesn't that work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So kind of what I was saying earlier is that while that may work in the short term, at some point you're going to need those people who have really, really strong technical skills to help develop whatever you're trying to build. And, at some point you're just going to have to be susceptible to whatever decisions or whatever thoughts they've made. And, at some point, I think it'll ultimately just lead to the destruction of your business.
Well said. Seena, let me come back to you. Thanks, Jack. You said on Twitter, I want to talk about product fit, Seena. You said on Twitter that the product you guys put together didn't directly benefit the people paying for it. Can you explain that in that tweet? And then how do you find the right product fit? Yeah, there it is. Our product didn't directly benefit the people paying for it. This one is probably the most embarrassing, but it's worth going over. At one point, we pivoted to offering free tutoring benefits to restaurant workers to combat the labor shortage. Can you explain this tweet for us, Seena, and then talk about the need to find a proper product fit for the product you're offering?
Yeah, absolutely. So the reason why we pivoted to working with restaurants is mainly because we just didn't have the technical knowledge to make our business to consumer model work out. And so we decided that it would be easier to actually create the technology for a B2B business. And that was correct, but the mindset for a B2B business is completely different. And so what we found was that what we were trying to do was offer a second degree solution when the most successful startups usually offer a first degree solution. So what I mean by that is, like, I'll give you an example. If someone wants to come up, or if someone comes up to me and says they're hungry, a first degree solution would be, I would give them food that's already prepared. They can eat it immediately and their problem's gone. They're no longer hungry. A second degree solution is one where there's assumptions. So if I were to go to the grocery market and buy ingredients for this person, I'm assuming that they know how to cook. I'm assuming that they have the resources to cook this food. I'm assuming that they have the time to create it. And so that's kind of the main issue, is that if you want to offer a solution to someone, it has to immediately solve their problem, in my opinion. You definitely can create a successful business with a second degree solution, but it's very, very difficult because there are just so many assumptions, and the buyer might realize that, maybe I just don't want to take a risk on this.
Thanks for that, Seena. Jack, let me come back to you. So just on what Seena is saying, his Twitter thread where he said, with a few exceptions, the best businesses to start are B2C, which is business to consumer. What's your take on that? Is that the best path for startups, the B2C path?
Yeah, so I do have to agree with Seena here. The only reason why I would say that is when you are dealing with a B2B business, when you're first starting out, not a lot of people are going to know what your company does, or who you are. When you start approaching those larger companies, they're just going to say, please speak with HR. And what we learned very quickly was that in the business world, that just means no. It's more of a polite way to say it. But when you're dealing with a B2C style business, you're able to directly talk to your consumers who are going to probably be around your age or maybe just a little bit older. You're able to start learning a lot more of kind of what they like, what their preferences are for products and whatnot. And then since you have that information, it's going to be a lot easier to sell and develop your business to fit that demographic.
Thanks for that, Jack. Seena, let me come back to you. In fact, I'm also going to throw this to Jack too. But Seena, you said that although you made a lot of mistakes, you're grateful to have worked with Jack. I want to talk about chemistry between co-founders. Is there a blueprint for finding the right co-founder for your tech startup?
Absolutely. So I kind of go through with the philosophy from Y Combinator and its founder, Paul Graham, which is it's best to work and start a startup with somebody who you know quite well and who you've known for years, and preferably someone you're close with. So Jack and I have been, like I said, close friends since we were in the 10th grade. During high school, he would come over to my place and hang out. I would go over to his place and hang out. We would go to the movies together. And we know each other very, very well. And we both have a very laid back personality. So if there's a disagreement between the two of us, we really don't, it's not going to devolve into an argument. We're just going to sit down and try and analyze it together and see where we can, find the best solution for our startup. And that's what we did. We worked together for a little over a year, and it just made it a whole lot easier. They say that finding a co-founder is kind of like finding a spouse, and because you just have to spend so much time with them, and you have to put in so much work with them. And it is true. I mean, finding a co-founder, it is really one of the most important decisions. And so it has to be with somebody that you really like spending time with, and somebody who you can work well with. So that thankfully worked out well for us.
Great stuff. All right, Jack, so pretty much same question to you. Thanks, Seena. Jack, so Seena said you've been friends since the 10th grade. What's your advice for founders that are seeking out a partner that they, didn't go to high school with like you and Seena did?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, having a co-founder is an incredibly important aspect for a business. I'd even go as far as say it's pretty much a necessity if you want to do really well. A lot of the top companies all had co-founders. So kind of my advice to finding people who you can found companies with is just be really passionate about what you like. Go out into the world and just keep showing that you're so passionate, whatever you're interested in. And then eventually other people who have those same passions are just going to be naturally drawn towards you. And you're able to form really good and strong friendships. And you're able to go on and do great things. But an important part of what I just said is to make sure that they're actually interested in starting a business. Because a lot of the times they can check all the boxes except for that last one, which is one of the most critical.
Got it. All right, let me ask you two what's next. Seena, thanks, Jack. What's next for you? Are you going to start another company? What are your plans?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, for Jack and I, we're actually planning on starting another business sometime in the future. But we agreed that when we shut down Ogma, we both agreed that it's best for us to focus on the fundamentals of startup knowledge and startup skills over the next little bit. So, becoming very good at programming is a very high priority for me. So right now I'm learning Node.js, Python, and I really want to learn machine learning as well. And so that's going to be something I'm going to be doing on the side in addition to my studies. And I'm also going to be working with hopefully another startup, just kind of getting experience working with other founders and being able to learn from them so that I can apply, a lot of this knowledge to the next venture that we go down.
Great stuff. All right, Jack, what about you? What's next for you?
Yeah, so I plan on taking a similar route to Seena, just learning more about startups and the skills needed to found a successful one. So my kind of plan to do that is just to work at either a really prestigious venture capital fund or work at a hedge fund and just see what kind of things they look for in the top companies. And then hopefully I can apply that to whatever companies Seena and I found next.
Great thing. Just really quick, I think this is for both of you. Seena, is Toronto a technology hub?
I wouldn't say it's a technology hub in the way that San Francisco or maybe New York is. However, there are a lot of very, very highly intelligent and skilled individuals here in Toronto. It's a great city if you want to start a business. And so I'm very lucky. I think we're both very lucky to be in such a diverse and lively city like Toronto. There are just so many opportunities to start startups, and many people are looking to work on cool projects. So it's definitely a great place to be. However, there are definitely advantages to being in startup hubs like San Francisco, where majority of the people there, it seems, are involved with startups.
All right, Jack, do you agree? Real quick.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I guess depending on how you see it, I guess unfortunately a lot of the top talent from Canada does go to San Francisco or other places like Miami. They seem to be booming, especially within the technology sector. But given the size of Toronto and the size of Canada, I think you're still able to find a lot of really smart and really talented people who are capable of achieving great things.
Guys, again, you guys are college students. This has really, really been a very informative discussion. You're both founders, and we wish you the best of luck. And we've got to have you back to talk more about what's happening in tech around the world. Seena, Makari, Jack Stephenson, co-founders of Ogma, appreciate your time talking to us about the journey of a startup that didn't quite make it and the lessons learned. Thank you so much.